What's up, Gator Nation? Welcome into the latest Gators Online show. Zach Albaverdi, Nick Del Torre here, and we have scrimmage to talk about. Not practice, Nick. Scrimmage.
Practice? Talking
Yeah,
about practice?
yeah. We've been talking about practice. We've been writing about practice, but now we actually have a scrimmage to preview, and then we'll be breaking it down on Friday after we hear from Billy Napier. We're going to give you guys another rapid reaction as requested after we join you guys in the swamp following Florida's open practice on Saturday. It was great to catch that. The Gators have now had their first full practice in pads, and now they're getting ready to have their first scrimmage on Thursday in the swamp at 1 p.m. So we'll be previewing that on today's show. We'll also give our takeaways from the first week of fall camp, as well as some injury updates. Nick, how are you doing?
Doing good. Taping this before I go up to beautiful Savannah, Georgia. Talking to the Savannah Gator Club. They haven't had a speaker in 4 years. No pressure for me. I'm sure it'll be good. But I love Savannah. Went to Charleston 2 years ago. When after Florida played South Carolina, and me and the wife are going to be doing that again. So
let's go.
It's behind enemy lines in Georgia, but two beautiful cities. So excited to talk to them, and excited to fly our drone over the Ben Hill Griffin Stadium on Thursday and get you guys some notes from scrimmage.
Yeah, we're gonna be we'll be stocking the swamp. That's for sure. So make sure you guys stay locked in with Gators Online. And want to give a shout out to our new sponsor for this show. You guys have seen them previously on some of our recruiting episodes. Now they're going to be sponsoring this show, and that is birddogs.com. And if you see some of this gear that Nick and I are wearing, he's got the new hat as well. That is all courtesy of Bird Dog, and we've been showing off the khakis recently, but all of their gear that they have, it definitely fits well. This shirt is really comfortable, perfect for this hot Florida weather, and the khaki shorts as well. They're designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look. And Bird Dog shorts do the same thing as Lululemon, but fit way better. And they also are made with anti-stick sweat fabric that keeps you cool and dry through the whole day long. So make sure that you guys go to birddogs.com/Gator and use our promo code Gators to get a free tech hat with your purchase. That's what Nick is wearing on his head. And they also got a bunch of other merchandise on their site that you guys can check out. So definitely encourage you to do that.
Let me tell you this, Zach. If you're one of those guys that skips leg days, these joggers and the pants that they have, it'll make it look like you've been doing squats. The woman in your life, she will appreciate your Bird Dog pants. They just sent me some joggers. Might have to wear those tonight.
Well, and you were ecstatic when you found out that they were.
I caught the show with you and Keith, and you held up your shorts, and I was like, "Yo, did they get my address wrong? What happened here?" And you were like, "Yeah, I haven't even worn them yet." I'm like, "Buddy, Zach, come on, just put those bad boys on, and you'll probably be using the promo code to have some more sent to you."
And then I went to the beach, and I was like, "Wow, these are really nice, Nick." I didn't.
They're perfect. They're perfect for my best man Kyle says he only wears them when he goes swimming. Now, if he goes to the beach or he's in the pool, he wears his Bird Dog pants. Yeah. They've got that the liner in it. You don't need to wear boxers, underwear. The liner's already in there for you. It's like a 4-way stretch material. It's very comfortable.
Absolutely. We got the shirts now to rock through fall camping for this show as well. So definitely encourage you guys to go to birddogs.com and also encourage you guys to stay locked to Gators Online, because we will have scrimmage updates throughout the day on Thursday and then on Friday as well, as we hear from Billy. But the Gators have had what are they at now, Nick? 7 practices?
Just had their 7th practice on Tuesday, and let me tell you what, I wore a black T-shirt out to the field, and I think I was fighting for my life just to stay conscious. It was unlawfully hot. if Congress could pass a law on the environment to not allow it to be hot, that would have been a felonious amount of heat on the practice field yesterday. Shout out to those guys. I mean, they're in full pads, helmets. I'm out there fighting for my life in shorts and a t-shirt. It was sticky. It was hot.
Would you say this has been the hottest fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, yesterday might have been the hottest day I've ever been outside. Like I'm old now, so I mean, there are probably some hot days, like when I was playing baseball, but you're running around, you're doing stuff. I'm old. You know, if I look outside or if I look at my weather app and it says, "Hey, it feels like 104," I'm like, it feels like an inside day.
Yeah, it feels like we should be in the IPF.
Yeah.
But hey, like to you said, credit to the guys. Like they have not been putting them inside there. Like they have been brave in the heat and the elements, and they are certainly going to be conditioned for this fall, no question about it. And we got to see that on Saturday. We will not get to see anything other than the viewing period on Thursday before the scrimmage. But a lot going down. I think obviously, most notably, Nick, is the quarterback position, and seemingly we feel like we're going to come out of the scrimmage with the starter named. But there's some other position battles, obviously, that are going to play out as well. But what are your thoughts on where that stands? Will Billy name a starter on Friday?
Yeah, I think so. When Billy was asked about it at SC Media Days, when do you want a starter? And I think it's a fair question. Like, hey, if your quarterback's your leader, whether or not your quarterback is like Treon Harris or if it's Tim Tebow, it's just the position. The position of quarterback as a leader on your team. And look, as the saying goes, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have any. I think Billy Napier was asked and said, hey, do you plan on naming a starter so you have that leader? And he said, I think we'll have one pretty soon. And then when you look at the schedule and you say, okay, well, they'll have one more scrimmage. And it's kind of a, hey, you need to prove it one more time when the Bullets are live and we're actually playing football, not just going through individual drills, things like that. So I think it's Graham Mertz's job to lose, and I don't know that there's much opportunity for him to lose it outside of injury. I think I would fully expect Graham Mertz to be named the starter on Friday or Sunday. We don't have any. We get Saturday off. We get a nice day off. We're getting one day off a week in fall camp, but we get Saturday off. So I think Billy will name Graham Mertz the starter. I was skeptical on this podcast. I wrote it because everyone was saying, "Man, Graham Mertz." Austin Barber said to us a couple times, Zach, "Man, when I get here, his car is here. When I leave, his car is still here." And I thought, well, he spent 3 years in an offense. He's got 2 years left to play, but really would only like to be here for 1 year and then, do well enough to be drafted and go to the NFL. So, yeah, of course he's going to be in first, out last. He's trying to learn a brand new system and trying to win a job. And if he doesn't win a job, shoot, I already used my transfer portal. Like, how do I need to graduate and be a grad transfer? And he's not trying to do that. So, to me, he's just doing what he has to do. But that has made an impression on the staff. It's made an impression on his team. Every player that we talk to talks about Graham being a leader, being a coach on the field. And to steal a line that Inky Johnson said, you need to, I think it was, you need to show compassion and then lead, or compassion, then challenge. And when you show someone that you care, and I think what Graham has done by pouring himself into the team and into the playbook and into the workouts is he's shown the team that they care. And now in turn, when the bullets start flying in the game and he says, hey man, you didn't run that route correctly, or hey man, stop peeling me up off the ground. You need to block that guy. Now that they know that he cares, when he starts calling guys out in game, that means a little more to them.
And we heard from Damian George that he does that. He's a very vocal leader. He's telling guys where to get lined up. He's telling them what to do pre-snap. And I think his knowledge of the offense and Napier's system is clearly picked up a lot from where it was in the spring. Not that he didn't have an understanding there, but he's just much more comfortable in it now. We could see that during the open scrimmage on Saturday, and I think that should show up on Thursday as well.
And he's not Danny Werfel. He's not Kyle Trask. He's not going to be asked to be Danny Werfel or 2020 Kyle Trask. I think this is an offense that's going to ask him to throw the ball 20 times a game, 25 times a game. I think where he is now mentally, just grasping the playbook, I think he's more decisive. I think he knows where the ball needs to go based on what the coverage is. Okay, I know this is a pass play. I think my first option should be taken out. So I'll go through my progression, my read. First option is not there. Second option not there, and then he'll just dump the ball off. And he's fine. Dumping the ball off, taking the yard, 2-3 yards, rather to not waste a play. So I think the job he's done in the playbook has allowed him to start playing faster. Granted, we're only watching, we've only watched a couple 11-on-11 periods, but to me, that was my biggest takeaway from Saturday's open scrimmage, was that Graham Mertz looks to be operating quicker.
Yeah, he does. He threw the ball well. I think the throws that they're going to ask him to make and the plays that he's going to have to make, he's more than capable of. Mm-hmm. And I think that if he has that comfort and he has that chemistry with his receivers, that's going to help. We did not get to see him with Ricky Pearsall on Saturday, Nick, because he had an illness. But, that was, we'll get into some of the guys that have been sidelined, but that was one of the good things I think that came out of the open practice was we got to see other guys at positions where there's some battles. And, maybe you had guys sidelined like a Shamar James or Ricky Pearsall, who is going to start. And then we get to see other guys. And, man, Marcus Burke, he really, I thought, looked good on Saturday. And I think that he's got a chance to, maybe if he doesn't start, maybe be that number 4 receiver in the rotation and just be much more involved in the passing game than he was last year.
Yeah, I think it goes back to probably last spring. I think Marcus Burke's biggest hurdle is himself, and was almost kicked off the team last year. Had some of his teammates kind of get his back and get him on the team. I think the biggest thing for him is if you don't start early, or if you're not getting a bunch of passes early, don't let that get in your head. Don't start pouting. Don't get down and outwardly express that, because that's not how you're going to end up getting more reps. The coaches, the older you get, pouting might get you into the lineup in T-ball, but when you're in the minor leagues, pouting is not going to get you to put in the lineup.
Yeah.
So physically, he's tall, he's added weight, he's fast, he can catch the ball. I think Caleb Douglas right now, outside of Ricky Pearsall, is the best receiver, but Caleb Douglas has had some drop problems. Like Marcus Burke is as physically talented as Caleb Douglas, and I think he just needs to come to work with the right attitude.
Yeah, and I think that we'll be looking to see, or hear, should we say, because we're not going to see, but hear who are some guys that stood out in the passing game. And we know what Ricky's going to do. Like you said, we know what Caleb Douglas is going to do. Who are the other guys that emerged? Billy got everybody fired up this week when he said Eugene Wilson cut it loose during the first practice in full pad. So we'll see what he and the other freshman receivers might be able to do in their first scrimmage setting. And I think, I know both of us will want to know, Nick, what is Micah Mazuka able to do? I think as we monitor that offensive line, now Richie Leonard has been out as well, but where is that offensive line at in a scrimmage setting? And even if Mazuka is still in a non-contact jersey, is he able to actually still participate and have some blocks and take on some action, because he did it on Saturday?
Yeah. So to me, what's the fine line of that? You don't want him to get re-injured. You don't want him to show up on August 31st hurt, but you also don't want him to show up August 31st in non-football shape. And there's really only way. Billy talked about this a little bit on Monday. There's a big difference between being big, strong, and in shape, and then being in football shape. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why they're not, in the indoor practice facility. Buddy, it's going to be like a crisp 54 degrees in Salt Lake City on August 31st. You put these guys inside a little bit, but I think it's part of getting them in the heat and getting them into that football shape. So there's a fine line with Micah Mazuka. Now, I think the surgery he had, you're not expected to re-injure it easily. It's not like a hamstring that kind of just lingers. You have surgery, the ligament gets better and it gets stronger as you rehab. And I think it's encouraging to see him going through some of the drills. It's been a great thing though for Najee Harris, and it's something that I openly questioned in the spring. I was like, why did they take Najee Harris, who was a center, and move him to guard, and take Roger Kearney, who was a guard, and move him to center? And Kearney had some snap issues, and I'm like, see, this isn't working. But Najee Harris looks ready to go. And playing as a freshman on the offensive line is hard. It's
an
easier
interior
to play.
too.
Yeah, it's easier. The farther away you get from the football, the easier it is to play.
Yeah.
We see freshman receivers play a lot. It's like, hey, all you need to do is either block or run your route.
Yeah.
That's
you almost never see a starting true freshman center. It's just hard to find.
A lot of responsibilities. And if you do, you probably have like a junior or a senior guard, and then they give the guard all of the center's responsibilities. They give the older player the center's responsibilities to like, hey, identify the mic, identify coverages, slide the offensive line. But typically that's a center's job.
I want to say you might remember this, Nick, but didn't Mike Pouncey play offensive line in 2007? And I want to say that they had that. Like, he didn't play center, I don't think. I think he played guard. And they had to basically tell him what to do pre-snap.
Yeah, so Marquise played center, and then when Marquise left after his junior year, Mike stayed. And Mike moved over to center.
I take that back. Mike played defensive line as a freshman. That's what it was. He was playing defensive tackle and had like no idea what he was doing, and they were just basically having to tell him what to do before the play every snap.
Hey, Mike, B-gap. Get in the B-gap.
I mean, he's an offensive lineman, so he speaks the language. I think the other big thing, Nick, obviously coming out of the scrimmage, everyone will want to know who won. Who won? Did the offense win? Did the defense win? I think in the spring game, it's fair to say the defense won. And I think that was a good sign. I mean, but I don't like. What do you think fans would want if they had to pick a side of the ball to win? You think they'd prefer to see the offense look better in this scrimmage, or the defense continue to dominate?
Well, some fans are completely unreasonable. Like I saw you say, hey, Dijon Mustard got 2 picks, and a bunch of fans are just like, well, who threw the ball? And it's like, can you just celebrate the freshman who had a couple interceptions and then realize like, hey, he's a freshman. He's been on campus for 2 weeks. He's probably not going against the first team, and start deducing that. But there's some fans that no matter what you tell them, hey, the defense had a great day. Oh, the offense is going to suck. Here we go again. We're going to have to watch this terrible offense for a whole other season. Like, it's like, okay. So maybe we'll just no notes from the scrimmage. We'll see you guys in August 31st. I think you'd want to see positive notes about the offensive line. And we can get into that now, but like the offensive line I'm looking at and I'm thinking thin. I think that Florida is going to try to run the football. So you want to see positive notes about the offensive line. The Florida's defensive line, you lost a couple guys from the defensive line, and all you did was flip the room by adding Caleb Banks, by adding Cam. You've got Chris McClellan back. Desmond Watson's back. You've got Tyreek Sapp. So you've got a line. Last year, Gervon Dexter played 630 snaps as a defensive tackle. Des Watson played almost 400 snaps. You're not going to have numbers like that this year because you can rotate guys in and out. Now, it's not like Georgia. I remember sitting there in Jacksonville, and like Georgia would do like a hockey line switch, and they would just like bring in the other line. Yeah. And then all of those guys were still 4 stars, 5 stars. And you're like, okay, well, that's ridiculous. That second team offensive line would start at Florida or would start at Tennessee. But that's kind of what they're building to. So with the ability to kind of bring in different bodies and keep everyone fresh on the defensive line, you don't have that ability on the offensive line. Yeah. Like, those guys just need to be better conditioned. So to me, if I'm a Florida fan, I'm looking and saying, I want to see positive offensive line notes, because the offensive line is going to be part of the reason why Florida will have success or won't have success on offense this year.
Maybe Graham not running around as much as he was in the spring game would be a good note.
No more watch out blocks where you just turn around and yell at the quarterback, watch out.
Yeah. I one thing, if I have a request for any Florida folks, anybody inside the building that is tuning into this podcast, can we get a live mic, a mic'd up Austin Armstrong for the first scrimmage, please?
on pay-per-view, because I don't think it'll be PG.
I still love the scene from the This Is the Swamp episode where he's trying to get Kamari Wilson's attention pre-snap, and he is just screaming his name like 20 times, Kamari, Kamari. And then when he finally gets in attention, Kamari looks at him and goes, right there. He like very calmly told him where to go. But yeah, I mean, this is his first time, or not, should I say, first time in fall camp calling plays. But again, can't overstate the fact that you are having a new defensive coordinator, and this is there's still some newness there, even though he knows the system. He's been here since the spring. But do those guys pick up where they left off? And are they, if they're able to dominate or have a bunch of plays or create some turnovers, I think that's going to bode well coming out of the scrimmage.
Yeah, that'll be a big thing. So the offensive line, I talked a little bit to Rob Sale after, and it's funny because if you ask a offensive line coach, how many guys do you need? The answer is always more. I would like more offensive linemen, please. It was Oliver Twist. Please, sir, can I have some more? But realistically, you rarely get 10 guys that you trust and you feel comfortable with, and you never get the NCAA football. When you're in your dynasty mode, and it's like, all right, well, the left tackle went down, so I just put in the backup left tackle. You're not the too deep on offensive line isn't really the too deep because
hold on. Shout out to the NCAA coming back too.
Yeah.
But it's not the too deep.
No. But it's like, if Micah Mazuka goes down, does Najee Harris just come in, or does Richie Leonard slide over to left? Sure. And then does somebody else go to right? Or if the center goes down, is it, you're always moving pieces.
Yeah.
So when I look at the offensive line, who are the 8? Here, your starting 5 would be left to right: Austin Barber, Micah Mazuka, Kingsley Aguakin, Richie Leonard, and Damian George. And then I go through how do you get to 8? I think Najee Harris is one of those. I think Jake Slaughter is one of those. And then maybe Lindell Hudson, but you haven't really seen Lindell a lot. Yeah. He is a veteran. So
I think you're right on 6 and 7, because remember those were the 2 guys that Rob Sale named at the start of camp. It was like who impressed him over the offseason. He said Slaughter and Najee. So that makes sense. But yeah, and then I agree with you too. I think Lindell would probably be the 8th, but he hasn't practiced since the first day of fall camp. So, who steps up in his absence? I think Bryce Lovett has been the guy that's been getting reps at right tackle. But I would assume that he would still probably get that as well. So, and also on the defensive side, because of Shamar James's absence, you've got a lot of guys, which we'll get into Shamar in a later segment, but you got a lot of guys that are getting reps at inside linebacker, and this is big for them. I mean, we're talking about the quarterback position, all the things that come with that. Well, the quarterback of the defense as well is having to get replaced with both of those spots. Amari Burney and Ventrell Miller both moving on to the NFL. So we're looking forward to it. We will be there for the viewing period, and then we'll be working the phones, trying to figure out what happened after practice ends on Thursday. So make sure you guys stay locked to Gators Online. Not only Thursday, but Friday as well. We'll be back with Billy's next press conference to see what he had to say about the first scrimmage. So definitely looking forward to seeing how all that plays out. Before we get to the next segment, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, My Perfect Franchise. Are you ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream? Looking for a side hustle while working your current job, or wanting to diversify, build wealth, and or leave a legacy? Andy can help. Andy is a franchise consultant as well as a franchise owner, and helps people find franchises that fit their skill sets, financial requirements, time to commit, and more. His services are 100% free, and he's here to help if you have any questions about business ownership. You can learn more and contact Andy anytime at myperfectfranchise.net, or call or text him at 404-973-9901. And as we preview the scrimmage, we also take time to review the first week of fall camp. Gators have had 7 practices. I think, what is it, 15 total that they will get before they start prepping for the season. So we're about to be at the halfway point after this scrimmage is through. Nick, we've already covered some positions and some players, but just in general, what are your kind of takeaways from the first week of camp? Whether it's this team, the roster as a whole, some personnel groupings, like what are some takeaways that really stuck out to you during the first week of practice?
I'll do like a positive and a negative. And I think first is a positive. The running back room is as advertised. We have not overhyped them. This is a great running back room. A caveat to that would be going back to the offensive line, and the running backs can't block and run for themselves. So you need to have somebody block. I think the linebacker room, you lost over 100 and like 20 starts, games played when you lose Ventrell and Amari, and you flip that room by bringing in Manny Nunnery, by bringing in Trahaja Mitchell, by bringing in blanking on the third name, by bringing in all these guys. And I think Shamar James going down, you get to see a little bit more of Manny Nunnery. You get to see more Scooby Williams, certainly more Derek Wingo. But I like the linebacker room. The biggest room I'm going to have questions about going into the season are the safeties. I think Kamari Wilson has looked a little bit better, but I don't know that I feel really comfortable with Kamari Wilson and Miguel Mitchell. I've seen Miguel Mitchell get run over in spring practice. I saw him get run over on Saturday. You need your safeties to not get run over. You're the last line of defense there. And if a guy's putting his helmet in your chest and then stepping on your shoulder pads on the way to the end zone, you can't get away with that as safety. So I like what I see from Jordan Castell. He's getting better. He's playing a bunch with the second team, and I think will be a guy that plays as a freshman a bunch. Yeah. And can he work his way into a starting role? RJ Moten, there was a stat that he hadn't given up a pass or a touchdown in coverage his entire career. Receivers are a little bit faster here, Zach. And I watched him give up a couple during some goal line drills. And granted, that's a goal line drill. And I remember turning to Mark Hockey and being like, I don't think RJ Moten should be covering Eugene Wilson one-on-one at the goal line. He's like, yeah, this is just a drill. I don't think that's, how it would work out in a game. I'm like, good, because that didn't go well for RJ. But
I'll tell you who did cover Trey Wilson good at the goal line was Sharif Denson. Mm-hmm. Man, shout out to Zach Goodall. He got a great clip of those two going one-on-one, and you saw that, and you're like, man, here's an example of iron sharpens iron. Like these two dudes going one-on-one in practice for the next 3-4 years is going to be huge.
So safety is my big concern. I really like Jason Marshall. I think last year I thought, man, maybe Jason Marshall just isn't the player that we built him up to be. And that's more on us than on him. And now that I think the coverages are different, you're not playing off ball. It's not
he's playing press.
It's not 3rd and 3 and the cornerback's lined up 8 yards off the ball and backpedaling. You're getting more press man coverage. So I think that's the kind of cornerback that he is. And he was asked to do something that is not his strong suit. Coaches say all the time, we need to find what our players do well and put them in those positions. And then last year they were like, Jason Marshall's great when he can get his hands on the receiver at the line of scrimmage. But what if, Zach, we had him dropping coverage instead? Line him up off the line of scrimmage and then had him just play like his own. How about that? Maybe that'll work.
And they are playing more man this year, according to Devin Moore.
I think you're going to have to play more man because I think this defense, what we were promised Patrick Toney would do, and being aggressive and bringing the creeper in and having all these exotic blitz packages that would never shown up. I think you're going to actually see more of that. And you saw some of it in the spring game. We were told before the spring game, hey, they're not really going to blitz. It's going to be pretty vanilla on defense. We're just going to try to do some things. And Austin Armstrong was like, I think they wanted me to do that, but this is the first time fans are going to see me, and we're going to bring some blitzes. Don't tell the offense, but we're going to blitz. I think you're going to see a more aggressive Florida defense. I don't know if it's, Todd Grantham and Gage 8 aggressive, But I think you're going to see more blitzing. And if you're doing that, then you either need to drop and play like a cover 3 zone, or you need to just say, hey, Jason, we're bringing 8. You need to take your man and just take him out of the play, please.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So overall, to start, Billy opened his first presser of fall camp with this, and I think that it showed up on the practice field. But like, these dudes are faster. They have gotten fast as a football team, and they have guys that have improved their speed. Like Trevor Etienne is faster than he was this time a year ago. Some of their receivers are faster than they were. Caleb Douglas is faster than he was this time a year ago. I'm convinced of that. What was the number he said that they had max velo guys? It was like over 50, right? It was a ridiculous number. So, you always show up in camp and, you want to see the gains that are made from the strength and conditioning program, especially from guys that bulked up or guys that lost weight. But like, and that's happened too across the board. But I will say that like this team looks faster, and for them to have 2 full-time speed coaches on staff and Tiger Jones and Ed Thompson, I would expect that. And I think that that's shown up. So that's number one. I think number 2, this was already kind of trending this way in the spring, but like, not only are some of the best players on Florida's roster guys that Billy and his staff brought in, but I think also more importantly, at certain positions where they've upgraded, it's because of guys that have been added by them. They're better, like even along the offensive line, because of bringing in guys like Najee Harris and Micah Mazuka. They've improved their secondary, obviously, by bringing in some of the guys that they got in RJ Moten. I mean, if you were starting 2 sophomore safeties this season, that would not have been an ideal situation. And now you add RJ Moten to that secondary along the defensive line, obviously. Caleb Banks and Cam Jackson have not only improved your defensive line depth and your rotation, but like, those are probably your starters and 2 best players, and they were added by this staff. And then, hey, even at the quarterback position, like, they brought in a transfer last year in Jack Miller. Maybe he's not progressed to the point that they would have hoped, and to go out again and go get another guy. You can't miss twice, Nick. Like, you can't go get 2 portal quarterbacks. You can. But like, I think it was important for them to hit on Graham Mertz. And again, he hasn't played a game yet, but to me, it's clear that he's going to be the starter. And I think he's going to work out for this team. I think he's going to do a good job. And if he does, that's another box that has been checked. So I just think talent-wise, this team and this personnel has gotten better, and it's because of the guys that they've added from the transfer portal and the high school ranks. And Billy's been touting that for months, but I've seen it on the field. I don't know what you think, Nick.
Yeah, by my count, there's, including walk-ons, there's like roughly 70 players, new players, that Billy Napier and his staff have recruited, whether that is portal, walk-on, or in the 2 recruiting classes. So that's a significant number. If you've got 120 guys on the team, 70 of them are, quote unquote, your guys. So there was a lot of belly aching about not getting guys in the portal, or not doing this or that, or recruiting. Like, there's a lot of new guys and a lot of new faces. So I think the guys, the best guys, for the most part, I think the best players on the team are guys that Billy Napier and his staff recruited, whether that's, Trahaja Mitchell, who's going to start and play most of your snaps at middle linebacker, or that's Ricky Pearsall, who's your best receiver. Both of your running backs, one's from the transfer portal, two are from the transfer portal, and 2 you recruited. I think Micah Mazuka, your starting left guard, could be your best offensive lineman. If not,
he was their highest.
Austin Barber's a holdover. Austin Barber
Yeah.
would be an exception to that rule.
And he was and Mizuka was also their highest rated transfer signee as well too. So I think between him and those two defensive linemen, like that changes the whole dynamic of the line of scrimmage for the Gators. You know, so and then I think just you know, I mentioned it earlier, but you know, I'm a fan of Austin Armstrong. Like I think that I like the hire a lot. You know, I think anytime that you hire a coach that's that young to be a coordinator, you know, it might grab some attention, but man, like I I think that guy has rubbed shoulders against the two best coaches in college football, and there's something to be said for that. And I think there's something to be said about the way that he goes about his job because of that, and how well of a DC that he is at this age, because of being exposed to Kirby Smart, and the little bit of time that he spent with Nick Saban. But he just on the practice field, like Princely said it. So you know, I've seen it, I felt it, but Princely said it as well. Like the difference between Patrick Toney and Austin Armstrong. Like, and it's not that one is right or wrong. There are plenty of DCs that are low key, that don't show a lot of energy, that are just, you know, kind of methodical maybe in how they go about dialing up plays, and they're just not rah guys and are very successful. Kevin Steele, you know, a bunch of veteran coaches that you probably fall into that category. Patrick Toney was in that mold. He was didn't talk a lot, wasn't a very loud, energetic coach. And I think as Princely described, he would usually be at like a 4, and Austin Armstrong is like at a 10 at all times. He is his coaching style and his energy is just different. And I think that it's going to and has made a difference. You know, again, all that rah stuff is meaningless if you don't have a good guy that's calling plays and he's good with X's and O's, which Austin is. So he's got the background, he's got the chops, and then I think the energy that he's brought to that defense is part of the reason why they've made strides and I think come along as a unit. How much is that going to make a difference this season? How much is it going to improve them in the rankings, you know, for defense and total defense and some of those other categories? I don't know, but I feel pretty confident in saying they are going to be better. And not only are they not going to be better, they're definitely not going to be as bad or anywhere near as bad as they were last year. And I think that's part of the personnel that they've added and upgraded, but that's also has to do with Austin Armstrong and him coming over to take over the defense.
Yeah, certainly louder, more energetic, and you know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. Sorry, PETA, just an expression. But yeah, there's more than one way to do things. I think the players react more, or are reacting more to Austin Armstrong and the way that he handles his business or the way that he goes about his business. And there's one thing, and it's been asked about a bunch. Like I think Austin Armstrong gets the, you know, ADHD of the younger generation, and it's like, okay, we will do 15 minutes of on the chalkboard video, you know, showing stuff. Is like, then we need to get up and we need to like walk through and do physical activity to do that. Because if I sat here for an hour and just talked, I don't know that that's all going to sink in. I think that's something that has helped the players, and some of the guys have spoken to that, just being like, yeah, we do like a segment of you know, learning and installation, and then we get up and we walk through it, and that helps me a lot. That's how I would learn. I would be snoring if you just talked for an hour, and then it would show up on the field. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's you know, it is interesting the teaching dynamic. You know, and then also I wrote about it, kind of how he starts off his meetings. He calls it out of yourself and into the team, but he likened it to Sunday service at church, Nick, where y'all get up and shake your neighbor's hand at the beginning of every service. But it is unique. Like, they didn't do it last year. I don't know how many places do that. And for a unit that has had some chemistry issues and is, you know, call it like it is, 2 years removed from players basically calling out their DC in press conferences post game. I think the chemistry of that room and that unit has come a long way between players in DC. And you can't tell me that that doesn't impact, the result that we get on the field. So we'll see how that manifests in this first scrimmage and throughout the rest of fall camp. But certainly Austin is someone that has stood out to me and his impact that he's had on this defense. Want to get to our next sponsor before we wrap up this show and give a shout out to Prairie Dental Center. The doctor is a UF grad who's practiced in Gainesville for 3 decades and has developed a deep understanding of how to diagnose and treat various dental problems, along with advanced skills and knowledge to provide more effective and efficient care to his patients. If you're having dental concerns or just need a cleaning, Prairie Dental Center offers a wide range of personalized care options to meet your individual needs. Give their office a call at 352-373-3431. Tell them Gators Online sent you, and your first patient exam will be free. Now, we have already mentioned some of the injuries that the Gators have been dealing with in fall camp. Do want to kind of give a full rundown of where things stand right now heading into the first scrimmage. I guess we can start with a guy that we haven't really mentioned yet, and that is Devin Moore. And I think Billy provided a pretty positive update on him this week when he met with the media to let us know that despite Devin missing the open practice with what was described as an upper body injury, Billy says that he's in return to play protocol. And on Monday, he said that he should be back in a couple of days. So, is he going to be ready or play in the scrimmage? I don't know. But the fact that he's saying that this is only going to be a couple of days that's keeping him out, I think it's a very positive update, because I think the concern when you heard upper body injury was his shoulder that he's been dealing with.
Yeah, and Billy was asked a bunch. So like Brian Kelly is getting ready for what will end up being like federal oversight, and he's releasing 3 times a week an injury report, like the NFL does. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you're getting an injury report. With gambling coming, National Penn Gaming just signed a deal with ESPN to be their official sports book. Like betting is here. It's pervasive through all sports. It's now in college sports. The University of Iowa knows that very well with what they're going through. So I think Billy is, and it's just my opinion, but getting ready for that and setting a precedence. And now we're only saying it's a lower body injury or it's an upper body injury. Your head is on your upper body. Your arm kind of hangs down past your waist. So maybe a finger injury would be a lower body, but it's still your arm. It's still your upper body.
Was it Will who would describe things as, he's got an arm, he's got a leg?
Yeah, he's got a leg. You're like, oh, thank God. Thank God he has one. Does he have 2? He's got an arm. That was Will Muschamp, yeah. But then I think you get into speculation. Devin Moore just had shoulder surgery that caused him to miss the last 7 games and spring practice. So when you say upper body injury, instantly your mind goes to, oh no, did Devin Moore re-injure his shoulder, which could keep him out for the entire year. Mm-hmm. So when you're vague, it leaves room for worry and speculation, which is not what Billy wants to have happen. He doesn't want people especially us, speculating about injuries.
Yeah.
But when you're vague, that's going to happen. So I think it's Billy getting ready. And Billy even said, like, hey, this is coming. Like, we're going to have some like federal oversight with gambling coming in. You're going to end up having to do, NFL style injury reports, things like that. Yep. It's very like hockey coach of him. Like in hockey, there's just lower body, upper body injuries. Like Shamar James was a lower body injury. And then we saw him on Saturday with a gigantic knee brace. But Billy wouldn't say that it was his knee, but it's certainly not his ankle.
Yeah. It's not his hip. Like, it's not his hip.
Wasn't wearing a hip brace, wearing a knee brace. So like we've always, since the injury happened, we've said it's his knee. And Billy was, yep, it's his lower body. It's like the whole thing.
And we got some timetable on that. That was Monday that he said send 7 to 10 days on Shamar James's return. You're going to err on the side of caution. So I would think, Nick, that
you can afford to do that right now. Like you have, it's August 9th. You've got 3 weeks. And Shamar James has been running with the ones. Like Shamar knows the defense. He's not missing out on learning anything. He's not getting worse by getting healthy. And I think if it's a situation, I think where if 7 days was Tennessee, like if he got hurt, if he did this Saturday against McNeese and had 7 days to play for Tennessee, I think you're not erring on the side of caution. I think Shamar James is going out there, with a shot and not even feeling his knee and playing against Tennessee. But right now in camp, you're afforded the luxury of giving him more time to rest.
So, question. He said 7 to 10 days on Monday. The 14th would be 7 days from when he said that. 8, 9, and 10 would be the 17th. And then, Nick, the Gators scrimmage for the second time in fall camp on the 18th. 11 days.
No need.
11 days after. You sure?
There's no need for him to scrimmage. Like, you know what you're getting in Shamar James, I feel like. Like, Elijah Mitchell was basically in bubble wrap all spring because it's a guy who's had injuries in the past. And you just need to get him to August. Like, hey, we don't need him. We don't need him to have shoulder surgery from wrapping somebody up. We just need to get him to August. I think with Shamar going down last week, you need to get him to August. And you're not going to find out something new about Shamar James in the second scrimmage. Now, they might let him play, but I'm saying you're not going to find out something new that will change your opinion of Shamar James in the second scrimmage. So that's your starting middle linebacker next to Trajan Mitchell. And if he goes out there and hurts his knee or gets dinged up, what did you accomplish by having him out there in the second scrimmage, even if he was fully cleared to play? Now, a football coach might say he's fully cleared to play. The doctor says he can play. He wants to play. We played him. But to me, you're not gaining much.
Yeah, and he is one of several guys I think that will be maybe wondering how much they participate in the second scrimmage. Another guy obviously will be Micah Mazuka. At that point, will he have shed his non-contact jersey and be full go? That's something we'll find out. We're still waiting to see when Hudson is going to be back. He, again, has not practiced since the first practice after having that minor car accident that he's recovering from. So I think he was in concussion protocol. So when is he going to come back? And also, when is Richie Leonard going to come back? How long will he be in a non-contact jersey? That's something that we're going to continue to monitor. And I think a positive note on the offensive line in terms of injuries was Cam Waits, I think, making a sooner than expected return to action, Nick.
Yeah, and so when I made like the distinction when you're reading our intel and our observations on Gators Online, in the section where we have who's in non-contact jerseys, it'll say non-contact next to him. Like Micah Mazuka, it just said non-contact. He's going through stuff. And then there's a difference between being a non-contact and like Arlis Boardingham going through running and still practicing a little bit. And then guys like Richie Leonard and Cam Waits yesterday were off to the side with the strength staff, just doing like lifting and stuff, working with medicine balls, working with bands, like clearly just going through rehab. No doubt. That to me is more significant of an injury. Like, hey, you're not even going through blocking drills with the offensive line. Micah Mazuka is going through blocking drills with the offensive line, and Richie Leonard and Cam Waits were not. So I think there's degrees to the black non-contact jersey. And it's certainly not good to see Richie Leonard in the worst degree of the black non-contact jersey, working off to the side.
Especially when you already got one of your guards limited already. You know what I mean? And you're having to rely on a true freshman basically to be that third option. So that probably presents opportunities for guys like Christian Williams, Jalen Farmer potentially. So we'll see how this plays out. We'll continue to monitor these injuries throughout fall camp. Ricky Pearsall's back. So that was just a little quick illness that he dealt with. So we'll see who is available on Thursday for the scrimmage and who's available the following week for scrimmage number 2. So make sure that you guys stay locked with Gators Online. I want to give a shout out to our final sponsor, and that's rogueshop.com. And want to encourage all Florida fans to go to rogueshop.com if you have issues sleeping, chronic pain, and or anxiety and stress. Rogue Shop sells CBD, THC edibles, smokables, and vapes, as well as handcrafted bath salts, soaps, candles, massage oils, pain creams, and topicals. Rogue Shop is a true small business. They have 5 employees and make all of their products with their own cannabis grown in their manufacturing facility. Visit rogueshop.com. That's ROGUE shop.com. And that'll do it for this week's Gators Online show. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. We will be joining you guys once again on Friday post Billy Napier to kind of give a wrap up on the first scrimmage of fall camp, some of the things that we were able to uncover and what Billy had to say on Friday. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. For Nick Del Torre, I'm Zach Albuquerque.